and we are your hosts to this Introduction to Python workshop.
Hosted by Coding for Community. All right, so today in our workshop, we'll be going over around 9-10 things. And first up, we have overview of Python and real-life applications. Then we'll go on to learning about Python code editors. And you guys will also be able to code with us on REPL.it, which I'll go over later on. For Python, you'll be learning print statements, intros to variables, comparison and arithmetic operators, basic data types, concatenating types, and if and else statements. And at the end, if we have time, we will go to a Kahoot game, so you guys can overview of what you've learned so far. What is Python? Our first slide. Python is a simple to learn, designed for readability programming language created in 1991 by Guido van Rossum. It is one of the fastest growing programming languages by popularity, and many companies, big and small, use it. So for an example, Google has made Python its official programming language at its company, which means that people are encouraged to use it, and they're encouraged to learn it and promote it rather than any other languages. It is an open source language, meaning anyone can contribute to it and have others access their projects and features. So maybe if you have like a project that you want the whole world to see, you can upload it and have other people use that and implement it in their projects. There are many versions of Python, but the most popular are versions 2.7 and 3.7. When you are downloading Python, I highly recommend getting version 3.7 because it is updatable and it's the newest one, while 2.7 does not have all the features anymore because it stopped updating. So look at that when you're downloading your software. Right.
All right, here are some of the real-life applications for Python. So it's used in web development, although it's not the main programming language that's used in developing the look and the feel of a website. Those functions would go to HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, which you could check out in our UI/UX workshop. But Python's function in web development is mainly for server-side code. So there are many helpful Python web frameworks, which are packages of code to be used for web application programming that are used for server-related functions, such as communicating with a database and web security. Python is basically a powerful tool for web developers to have. Another area where Python is important is machine learning. Python is the main language used to construct models for machine learning tasks, such as image classification, language translation, or identifying trends in data, which ties strongly into data science. If you're interested in studying machine learning algorithms in the future, you should definitely be familiar with Python. And if you want to know more about machine learning itself, I highly recommend attending Coding for Community's Machine Learning Workshop, which is scheduled for the 19th of this month. Another big part of the Python programming world is data science and analytics. It's used by data scientists to create machine learning models that analyze data sets, find patterns or trends, and make predictions based on the data. And these predictions can be used to solve real-world problems. If data science is a field you want to get into in the future, it would be essential to have a strong background in Python. Again, if you'd like to know more about machine learning and data science, check out our machine learning workshop coming out next week.
All right, so before coding with Python, there are many terms that you need to know so that you don't get confused when you first start off. So you will probably see many of the terms listed on this slide as you go on in your programming time. So first off, we have IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment, and it is a software application that includes tools that develop and test the software. So IDEs are basically where you code, where all the output comes out, and where you can access your files. So IDEs can either be downloadable or found online, and it can include a variety of libraries. Some examples of IDEs are VSCode, Tawny, and REPL.it, which we will go over in the next coming slides. Libraries in Python are a reusable chunk of code that one may want to use in their projects or programs. And they can be used for machine learning and data science, and anytime you create a Python project, you can add something to it with libraries. Next, we have code editor, where the code is written out, where all the commands go. File browser shows the directories and files that a coder can choose from, and the shell/console takes input from the user one line at a time and interprets it, which basically runs the code. And we'll have a picture of that in the next slide.
All right, so here are the parts of the IDE/editor that you will use. The file browser is this rectangular section that you see on the left. The code editor is where you will write all of your code. As you can see, there are different lines that you could write in the hello.py file. And then down there, that rectangle with a rectangular bar that says Python on it, that's the shell or the console, which is where everything is printed. And you could also write in the shell or console. You could write unsaved code in that section just to test out different lines or different operations. And the editor status bar shows information about the file currently being displayed in the code. It shows the line and the column, 1 and 2 respectively in the image above, file type, and file path and name.
But now that we have gone over what IDEs are, here are some of the best downloadable IDEs to use, and we'll get some examples that you can download after this to program yourself. First up, we have VSCode, which stands for Microsoft Visual Studio. This is an IDE from Microsoft used to develop websites, web services, computer programs, and apps. So if you're interested in app development and website development, I highly recommend using this. I have used it for coding websites, and it's really awesome to use. It is free and is built on open source, which means, like we said about Python, it's an open source language. You can access other people's code. They have over 10K extensions and can be used in all operating systems. Extension files contain programming that serves to extend the capabilities of or data available to a more basic program. It's fine if you don't understand all of these terms. You won't really need all of them, but this is just for like a basic overview. And OSs are operating systems, so that means you can download on Mac, Windows, or other operating systems. So you can code with multiple languages and even use a live share feature to share your project with another person. And it's simple to use and highly recommended for beginners as well as pros. So you can start off using Visual Studio and continue into your programming career using this.
Our next IDE is Sublime Text. So it's a fast, reliable, and a popular text editor with several practical features that make development efficient. It has simultaneous editing, which means that you can select multiple different objects at a time and apply those changes to those objects all at once. Auto indentation, which is pretty self-explanatory, and a built-in Python API, which provides additional Python functionality through plugins, which basically add extra features. It can be downloaded and used for free from their website, and you can download it using an unregistered account. So I'm just gonna elaborate on this really quick. Technically, Sublime Text isn't actually free, and the website will tell you that you have to pay for a one-time purchase license to use it. So when you download Sublime Text from their website for free without making a purchase, it's basically like getting a free trial, only it never expires, and you can still use the vast majority of its features just fine. To be honest, the legal implications of the license are pretty vague, but the bottom line is many developers that use Sublime on a daily basis for their jobs have worked just fine with the free version. So if you do want to purchase the license, it'd mainly just be for supporting the developers of Sublime itself, because it's a really good program and a lot of developers really appreciate it.
Okay, now we have Pycharm. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's very popular. And it's a Python-specific IDE developed by JetBrains that combines all Python tools. When they say Python-specific IDE, it means that you can only use Python and it's specifically meant for it. And I don't think you can use any other programming languages, unlike Visual Studio Code. And Pycharm's code inspection is one of the most advanced among all Python IDEs, which means that it can catch errors and bugs really quickly in the code, so it's very hard for anything to pass. And it provides intelligent Python assistance, built-in development tools, web dev frameworks, and more. The paid version involves more options. It is very useful for web dev, machine learning, AI, and data science. And since it's very popular, if you're thinking about pursuing a career in data science, machine learning, or like Python or coding, you're probably going to hear about Pycharm. And next we have REPL.it, which I explained about, I just brushed upon before. It's an online IDE that we'll be using to code in this very own workshop, which means that you don't have to download it and you can run code easily and for free. It has cool built-in features that predict what you're going to type, and it's really good for debugging code, which means like finding errors. You don't even need to sign up. You can start coding, and it's very simple to use. Allows you to save the files in the end and write a short description about them. And let's go to REPL.it so you guys can see. If you guys want, you can go to yourself. I really recommend that and follow along. So when we talk about like print statements, you guys can also use that. So you come here, you don't have to sign up. You could just start coding, and it's going to take you, and you can click Python as your language, and it will create the REPL. You can also use GitHub for this, it's pretty cool. Sorry, might be a little lagging, but this is basically an online IE which we talked about, which is file directories, and here's the code editor and the shell and console, and you can just print out. Okay, while that's going on. All right, yeah, see it loaded, and you can type here in the shell console. Like if you just want, you can actually type in the shell console as well, and you could just use it as your calculator. It's pretty cool. All right, here. We have print statements, hello world.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to actually get into the programming aspects of Python. So the print statement is every programmer's first line of code, and it prints an output in the Python shell. So what you do is inside of the print statement, you can write any message you would like shown as long as you put the message in between quotes. For example, if you'd like to print the message hello world, you would just type print and then hello world within the quotations in the code editor. And then you would press the run button if you're going on Replit to watch your statement be printed in the shell. If you want, you could go ahead and go on Replit right now and try other phrases as well.
Yeah, just do one example. You can go print, and you could say coding is fun. And you press run over here. And like I said before, that REPL.it, yeah, see it here. And also here you can see like the box that predicts what you're going to write, and it gives some information about it. So you can also learn while. Okay. Now we have arithmetic operators and curve operators, which basically, yeah.
Yeah, so the print statement, by the way, doesn't just print letters and words. It can also print numbers and the results of comparison operators. So Python can act as a regular calculator, as Suchita has shown in the shell, and it follows the rules of PEMDAS perfectly well when performing long operations. And as you can see in the demonstrations in the example,